Hey everyone, welcome back to JEWELCAST. This is Low DeFi, and we have a very special guest today, Luigi Demeo from AvaLabs. And we're really excited about the expansion with DeFi Kingdoms, and we wanted to get a little bit of more information, update the community, and kind of see, some other input on the expansion and where things are headed. So, yeah, welcome, Luigi.
Hey, nice to be here, and thanks for having me, guys. It's really cool to see the amount of traction you guys have gotten just so quickly with the game and also this podcast.
Thank you. Yeah, it's been quite a couple months. DeFi Kingdoms is moving at an extremely rapid pace. I think it's something that no one really expected from the beginning, but as, time progresses, and how competent the team has shown they are, it kind of starts to make sense. And, now we're running full steam ahead, regardless of broader market conditions. Jules kind of just chugging along. And I mean, yeah, it's pretty amazing to see the progress, and it's kind of been interesting because we've kind of been secluded in this bubble with all the broader markets, conditions going on, but it's quite amazing, and we're really excited, and this expansion is going to be a huge step in the kingdom. Superior, you have any thoughts? Or
Yeah, no, I think to reinstate kind of what you said, I'm completely blown away that AVAX is
a
AVAX
Vox?
is coming it is coming, so quickly. I think that it says a lot to the work that the devs are coming, excuse me, the devs are doing. I do love it also that you, Luigi, you've been able to reach out and talk to the DFK team, and you guys have got so much traction together, and the synergy seems there. I'd love a little bit of insight on how, well, from whatever it is that you can share with us, like how those initial talks kind of began and how you guys were able to move so quickly on this. Considering I think the DFK team had initially mentioned that Phantom was one of the first chains that they were wanting to expand to first, but lo and behold, it's a Vox.
Yeah, I mean, just to give a little bit of an introduction to the audience. My name is Luigi, and I'm just the head of DeFi at AvaLabs. So really just focused on, building out the DeFi ecosystem. I spearheaded the many programs here and kind of also brought a lot of the projects that you see on Avalanche today. So yeah, I mean, look, I'll be honest. I said to my team um, really early on, that we identify 3 or 4 main priorities in terms of projects. We each went down and wrote something down and came back to the table and said, who do we want to bring to Avalanche that's already an existing project on another chain. At that point, we had brought over, well, we were bringing over Aave, Curve, Sushis will deploy again, Kyber, all known Ethereum protocols that are very, very well respected. We had them at the top of the list, and on my piece of paper was DeFi Kingdoms as like the second or third in terms of application that I wanted to bring over. And the reason for that is because it's not hard to see from afar that DFK kind of had a ton of traction on a chain that wasn't really, that there wasn't much else going on, right? And so that was
Right.
kind of interesting to me. And then when I dove deeper, I saw how devoted the community was. And for us at Avalanche, this is like the most important thing out of everything, like in terms of metrics and statistics you could look at, and TVL users, daily wallets, etc. It's like, how devoted are the users to the application? How sticky
Mm.
are they? And there was no doubt in my mind, 'cause for people to dive this deep into this world and really fall in love with it, and they are here for the longer term. And the other thing that I thought I knew at the time, but realized I really kind of didn't fully appreciate, was the strength of the team. I knew the team
Mm,
was strong, but just by how fast they delivered, but I didn't think that they were this good.
mm,
Because I come across a lot of teams, and I'm generally, my expectations are usually sufficient, and here, they were not. This team blows me away every time I talk to them. So it was a natural target for us, and we went after it. I really told them how much we wanted them, and how excited we were about it. And I think that the synergy just naturally blossomed throughout the conversations that we had.
wow. Wow. That's amazing. And like, if you don't mind me asking as well, is like, can you give me like a time frame when DeFi Kingdoms kind of just popped on your radar? I'm always curious on like, guys like yourself and, other guys spearheading different chains, like how quickly they pick up on things. Like, did you notice this around like the September time frame, the November time frame?
Let me think. So this was September for sure. This was a
Wow.
long time ago. We've been talking for a while. But yeah, it was on my radar in September. I thought it was really interesting, the idea in general. Like obfuscating a DEX
Yeah.
with the gamified world seemed really interesting to me. And so my first thought was like, okay, let's get somebody else to build it. And then like the more and more I dove into it, I was just like, that's not going to happen here. Um, and then I started to read into some of the issues that the users were having in terms of RPCs and whatnot. And I was like, okay, well maybe there's like a natural potential here in terms of like something that makes sense for both sides. And then I realized that they were already looking to expand, which I didn't know. When we first put it on the list. So that was kind of nice to know. And then um, I think it made a lot of sense when I started to think through. Like they let me know about this idea of new maps, and I thought an ice theme one really made a ton of sense, frankly, given it's the winter,
Yeah.
and the timing all lines up kind of nicely. So I think a lot of it just kind of fell into place. But I think one thing that's not um, that can't go unnoticed is how much of a target this was for us.
That's great. And let me ask you this too, since we're kind of on the subject too, is I think a lot of the questions that tend to pop up from the community is, kind of the gas, right? And the transactions, right? So considering the way that Harmony's designed where, the token's so cheap and the gas is so cheap, how are you envisioning interacting on AVAX is going to be a little different from Harmony? Like your perspective, at least. Obviously, we're not there yet. We don't fully know what it's going to look like, but as a guy that's spearheaded these types of projects and with you being on that chain, what are you seeing?
Yeah, no, it's a fair question. It's one that we get a lot. I mean, yes, generally speaking, Avalanche has higher fees than Harmony. There's a lot of reasons for that. None of which I think the users will care about. We have 1,200 validators. I think Harmony has 100 or so. Gas limits artificially set low. There's all these technical reasons which are temporary on Harmony for the reason that the gas is that low, but and it'll have to be raised. I already know that there's proposals, to kind of raise the gas on Harmony. It's an EVM chain. EVM chains need a high enough gas, otherwise, you kind of see a lot of spam and RPCs won't work, and that's kind of the situation there, for at
Mm,
least from my perspective. So yeah, we have higher gas fees, but for the user, this is something that we're actively discussing with the DeFi Kingdoms team. There's a million directions we can go to kind of make the user experience better, and we're going to work our best to do that. There's a lot of options.
that's great. That's great. I love to hear that. And I'm sure, the entire community, both from both sides, is going to love hearing that coming from you, with all that sheer experience that you've had, bringing AVAX to where it is now. Anything you want to chime in to, Low DeFi?
Yeah, I had these two tweets bookmarked I've seen over the last couple weeks, one that you tweeted out, and I mean, I think it's just, you know, getting this information to people in the community, and it's comparable to DeFi Kingdom's growth, and I mean, the growth of Avalanche the last few months is amazing. And it's really interesting just to see how the transactions, I mean, I've seen you and other people tweet this out regularly, oh, like another all-time high of daily transactions, and like you're basically top 10 market cap, and it's great to kind of see Avalanche and DeFi Kingdoms kind of come together where they're both in these stages of like hyper growth, and it seems really fitting. And uh, that's what I'm really curious is on is this huge influx of transactions lately. And what would you know, is it just more people are looking for on-chain projects? I know Avalanche Rush with the big incentive programs, but what do you think's really caused this huge exponential growth with the ecosystem?
Yeah, I mean, it's really been a combination of a lot of factors. So, Avalanche is a really unique one. It's not just an EVM chain. It's got a very complicated and interesting architecture, which allows for many different things. One of which is subnets, which are essentially these customizable mini blockchains built within the whole network. So the Avalanche C chain is the one that has a lot of activity today, the one that everybody knows, and that's the EVM compatible chain. But Avalanche is much more than that. In terms of how we got our growth, well, it was really a bunch of infrastructure pieces coming at the right time. So we had Chainlink Oracles go live in June, which allows a lending platform to go live. And we also had our new bridge, which was built. And the Avalanche bridge, which is built by AvaLabs, is a bridge to Ethereum, and it's the fastest and cheapest bridge out there by far. It leverages Intel SGX technology and kind of really has the best UX. You never feel like your funds are screwed over at any point. You have multiple confirmations and etc. So, point being that all those came together, and we sort of also had the announcement of Avalanche Rush at that time, and this kind of allowed everybody to try Avalanche. And I tell people all the time, I said the programs are great only when the product works, like only when everything works well. Otherwise, like people come over for the nice APYs, but they won't stay if they don't like the chain, or, the RPCs are always down, or if things don't work well, if the bridge isn't good. So they came to Avalanche to get the high APYs, and then, they stayed because they really like the chain. I mean, the finality is super fast on transactions, meaning, you're kind of just clicking and moving along. In fact, the finality is so fast that it's faster than MetaMask. So until we have a native wallet, you can't even feel how fast it is, which is interesting. But this is all something that came together at the right time. People like what Avalanche can bring to the world, and I think we will continue to see growth going forward, and the growth will be different than it was than it was over the past few months, because I think naturally speaking, these chains can grow in a different way, not just on the one singular L1 chain.
Yeah,
That's interesting.
yeah, it's pretty amazing. And I think that was something I wanted to bring up too was the bridging aspect. I know you've mentioned how the UI for bridging from Ethereum is, yeah, it's scary when people are bridging, fees,
Yes, it is. I hate bridging.
and you
I
have,
hate it.
so, and I think that's, you know, great foresight by the DeFi Kingdoms team as well, is now we've got this the dock on the map where it's really user friendly, and this has been a great thing they've done constantly is, from the gardens and being able to get people into these more advanced forms of decentralized finance with providing liquidity and the decentralized exchange, and now we've got bridging that's going to be put into the equation when the expansion comes into play. So right now I know they've got the AnySwap, and we'll probably do a tutorial on this eventually. And yeah, and I think that's great that Avalanche has really focused on you know, the user experience of bridging and making sure you know exactly what state your funds are at in the process. And I know you will, like airdrop AVAX for some fees and making just the whole experience, very welcoming and less, you know, the most of the users don't care as much about like the technical aspects of it. They just want to make sure they can
Yeah.
easily move their funds. And I think this expansion with DeFi Kingdoms over to Avalanche and the opening up of the Crystalvale and the new realm is going to be a great learning experience for a lot of people, and seeing how well this cross chain of you know DeFi Kingdoms in general, but how smooth Avalanche really is. I'm excited. I'm really excited.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited too. And, speaking of kind of bridging and, Crystal and just being on Avalanche, like, Luigi, let's speculate a little bit because people love this.
Hmm.
Like, right? Let's be bulls right now, right?
Okay.
For DeFi Kingdoms, right? So Harmony is a smaller chain, right? And we're gonna be going on to AVAX soon. Like, can you give me roughly a small percentage of how much liquidity do you think? Okay, very, very conservative, speculative estimates that you think we could get an influx into DFK once, this expansion occurs.
That's a hard question. What do you guys like? 1.2 billion in TVL or so right now?
Yeah.
For DeFi Kingdoms, yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, here's kind of how I think about it. I think there's going to be a lot of jockeying, a lot of games in the beginning, in terms of like people bridging over from Harmony in the beginning just to kind of stake their jewel and earn Crystal, and then going back when those APYs go back up. I think it'll be a little bit of jockeying in the beginning, but once it gets settled out, I do expect to have at a certain point like 300 to 500 million pretty easily in TVL on top of what exists. I could see that pretty much happening, but
Wow.
that seems conservative, and depending on how the game does. But a lot of that's really dependent on jewel and crystal prices, because a lot of the TVL is denominated in that. It's different than a lot of other applications where they're not as reflexive. This is super reflexive in the sense that if the price goes up, the TVL really moons. But you know, it's interesting. I think that's less important too, right? I think like for the most part, people in DFK they like to play the game, right?
Right.
And the TVL for the most part is kind of idle, which is something that I've started to think about a lot as well too. Like what could be done with that capital to be more efficient and kind of do more things with it. It's just sitting there for the most part.
Right, that's true. And like right now, like how much liquidity is flowing in AVAX just for our regular users, just to kind of know, like off the top of your head, roughly how much liquidity we got flowing around there? Market
Yeah,
cap.
so on Avalanche, depending on how you measure TVL, if you include like borrowing, there's like about 18 billion
Wow.
in total value locked.
Wow, that's fantastic.
And
Yeah, it was like 200 million in August.
right.
Right. You guys ballooned.
That was crazy to me because I've been in the Harmony ecosystem since March, and I've seen Avalanche all the time, and I think it's easy for people to kind of be, stuck on their own chain, and they kind of just the longer that time they spend in there, it's harder for them to branch out. So I'm really excited for this expansion because it'll a lot of people that have been in the Harmony ecosystem that have never tried AVAX or their ecosystem. It's going to push people a little bit out of their comfort zones, which I'm really excited for. And seeing the growth, I mean, since July, I mean, price isn't everything, but it's a testament to the demand. And
Right.
it's, it's up nearly 10x since everything bottomed out in July. And the ecosystem is thriving. And I know there's tons of great projects going over there, and there's a lot of major dexes and just innovation happening. And I'm excited for DeFi Kingdoms to be, on kind of that forefront of this play to earn um, aspect. So I think it was a great move by both sides to really push this to the forefront with, the growth we're seeing on both sides.
Yeah, and I would just say like the thing that I like to talk most about in terms of Avalanche that I hope the DFK community realizes and sees is I think we have one of the best ecosystems out there in terms of community.
Hmm.
The Avalanche like community is one that's very open and welcoming. I think they're really gonna embrace DFK, try the game themselves, and I think that um, you know your users will feel super welcome to kind of join a new community at whole, at large.
It's great. Yeah, I think.
Yeah, I'm really excited about the community aspect myself, because I think I'm not sure how you feel about it, low DeFi, but the Harmony community, I felt like it was kind of like different pockets of silos. You go into one project, it's kind of a little bit siloed off from another project because guys were essentially fighting for each other's TVLs. I mean, guys wouldn't talk about it, but you could just kind of see the
Yeah,
jockeying.
Yeah.
That's
that
how
that
it used
happens
to be.
that happens if
Uh-huh.
the ecosystem doesn't grow as a whole. You kind of have very zero sum games.
Yeah, and I think that's been great for, DeFi Kingdoms, and that's maybe, if not the strongest aspect, is the community is incredibly strong here, and it was,
Yeah.
organically built, and the way it's progressed over the last few months, I feel like a lot of the core values have stayed the same, and the team embraces that, and they're looking, for partners like Avalanche that embrace a lot of these same values and mindsets, and you know, pushing forward, but retaining, that organic community. Um, it feels right, and yeah, I think now there's less, and even as DeFi Kingdoms moves over, since it is a DEX as well, I know there are a lot of large DEXs on Avalanche already, and I know some people have mentioned, they're wondering if there's going to be a lot of TVL taken out of there and put into, DeFi Kingdoms, but it does seem like it'll be less of a zero sum game than a lot that happens in a lot of ecosystems. So I don't think that's much of a concern.
Yeah, guys. Oops, sorry about that. I don't know if you heard my background music.
Oh no, you're good.
Yeah, you're good.
I had the DeFi Kingdoms one playing. I opened it up.
Yeah,
Um,
it's great tunes.
yeah. So on that point, this is one that I've kind of went back and forth, uh, and I'm really excited and interested to see kind of how this plays out. But ultimately, DeFi Kingdom's kind of different than like a Trader Joe or a Pangolin. You know, for one, the routing currency is different. So for DeFi Kingdoms on Harmony, Jewel is the routing currency. So everything has to be paired with Jewel. You know, if you're just a project that wants to set up on a DEX, you might not necessarily want to be paired with Jewel. You might want to be paired with a Vox or a stablecoin, right? Because different pairs introduce different risks in terms of impermanent loss.
Hmm.
So I think I think there will be some TVL taken, but I don't necessarily I don't think it'll be large. I think you'll see growth instead of mercenary TVL taken, because I think it's two different use cases, frankly. What I'm really excited to see is once DeFi Kingdoms is integrated into the DEX aggregators that we have, like Paraswap, who else? OpenOcean, right? Yieldiac. Once it's integrated into those, people's transactions will just route through, and it'll be interesting to see the difference in pricing of like a pool on DeFi Kingdoms versus a pool on Trader Joe and Penguin. And naturally speaking, you guys may just get more fees because we have aggregators here. I'm not sure if that's available on Harmony right now. I have no idea.
Uh, I think there's one,
Not
but it's
that,
really small. So yeah, I think that's
yeah.
going to present a great opportunity as well. And yeah, I think more so with just the idea of moving cross chain. It's yeah, it's newer money coming in, and it's yeah. I really see this as a win-win for
Yeah.
everyone in the ecosystems. It's gonna expose a lot more people to newer aspects of crypto in general, and kind of force them to learn and bridge their assets and learn about new ecosystems too, because it's the same thing that happened with DeFi Kingdoms. Me as well, I initially joined for the crazy APRs, and then I've been here since. A lot of people, you know it's good to be skeptical at first, but then do a little research and experiment a little bit, and then you really see what you know DeFi Kingdoms can offer, and Avalanche.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, hopefully we're able to do our best in terms of bringing new users to the game, and growing the pie. That's our goal.
Yeah.
Yeah, very excited.
Any final thoughts, Superior?
I mean, I
I
think,
wanted to ask
yeah.
you guys a
Yeah.
question.
Oh, yeah,
Actually,
please do.
I was kind of curious on your thoughts of the new token, and I'm sure that surprised a lot of people. And it's something I was very excited about. But I'm curious on from you guys, kind of how you initially reacted, and then how you reacted over time. Kind of what were your thoughts are on that?
Superior?
Sure. So we saw something a little bit similar with a DEX that we had here on Harmony called Viper Swap, where they branched off onto BSC, and they had this other DEX, Cobra Swap, and it really the Cobra token really impacted the Viper token because honestly, but just because of lack of utility, truth be told. So a lot of people were sharing that kind of sentiment, and they were like, "Oh, look at what DFK is doing. This is kind of going to be similar to what happened with Viper." But honestly, for me, right off the bat, truth be told, I didn't feel any concerns at all. Actually, I was really, really happy because the structure of the Jewel token is just so deflationary. And the way the emissions are structured, the token, truth be told, is designed to go up in price,
If people continue to play the game, and you grow
Exactly,
users.
right. So if the game is good, the token is just designed to really go up. And I felt like at some point that just becomes an impediment to new users. And so if we went to AVAX just with Jewel, I do feel like it would have screwed over a lot of the AVAX folks. And I do feel like in the short term, current holders would have been extremely happy, but in the midterm, we'd all be paying a huge price because growth would have stagnated tremendously. So with the way
Yeah,
that the
I also
sure.
don't think that I don't know if you would have. I don't know if Jewel would have performed the way it did if it was
Right,
the only token.
right. So I think so. Yeah. So like, and I remember when that news initially came out too, because I did speak to a couple of whales, and they were pissed. They were pissed enough that they
Nice.
actually dumped.
for them.
I obviously I can't say names or anything like that, but they dumped, Jewel dipped, but other people saw some opportunities. And they kind of had to work through the process and why the team wanted to introduce the concept of the power token. But me, truth be told, like I want more users in the game. So it's nice when tokens go parabolic, but it's also nicer when you have this nice, steadier incline of growth and it's more sustainable. And everybody, again, like you're saying, gets to share a piece of the pie. So
Yeah, it
that
also just brings more utility to Jewel, which
right,
is something that I think is understated. It's kind of bring like I think people underestimate how complex it is to bridge one token over to multiple chains and fracture that liquidity
right.
and assume that it's going to be okay. That's the sushi problem. And in fact, that's
Yeah.
effectively what killed sushi in a lot of
Wow.
respects because you couldn't really trade sushi on any other chain. It was just a little bit here, a little there, a little here, a little
Mm,
there, and at the end of the day, you wanted to go buy $1 million worth of sushi and you need 15% slippage because
right.
just not enough of it on for to go around every chain. Like the tokenomics was designed for one chain, so it's very difficult to kind of fracture liquidity like that, and bridging is not good enough these days to have
Right.
our bots running across multiple chains keeping prices equal. So it's messy.
It is. It's funny you say that too, because not only do you have to fractionalize the liquidity, but you also, like, especially even with Jules tokenomics, we're just not emitting enough Joule anyways if we wanted to just grab a whole chunk of it and put it on AVAX, you know?
Hmm.
So yeah, I mean, yeah, it was gonna cause problems through and through. So I really love your thought process with that. And Crystal is kind of going to give everybody else at least a little bit of time to have some fun. Hopefully, the emissions kind of work out with the amount of people on AVAX that are gonna kind of jump in head first, if they
Yeah, I
haven't
don't think
already.
it'll only be the Avox people too, which is going to be interesting. Like
Oh
I
yeah?
imagine
Tell us more. Like who?
Harmony players.
Okay, yeah,
I'm
yeah. Well,
sure. I'm sure existing players will play Crystalvale too.
yeah, yeah. Well, I'll tell you this. Yeah, a lot of us definitely want to go to Avox. But I thought when you said you thought it was gonna be like other people, I thought you were thinking about even other chains because since Harmony is such a small chain, you're like, forget Harmony. But ooh, Avox, let me try
No,
that.
I don't feel that way. I don't
Okay.
feel that way. I mean, I have no ill will at all against the chain or the team or anybody. I just like the game. Think Avalanche could be a great platform for it, and I think we'll see what ends up happening. But hopefully, we can provide good infrastructure for players to play the game and a good community to welcome them.
I'm excited. And thank you so much, Luigi. Very excited.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Really appreciate you coming on and talking expansion with us. We're really excited. This is a big part in, DeFi Kingdoms and even just the future of play to earn, cross-chain finance. So it's, you know, in the middle of this all, it's a big experiment, and I mean, I haven't really seen much of anything like this take place. So I think there's going to be a lot of eyes on this on Crystalvale and the expansion in the new realm. So yeah, let's hope for the best, and I think it's going to be a great experience for everyone. I'm really excited to dive more into the Avalanche ecosystem and kind of literally put myself out there a little bit more. So yeah, we really appreciate you coming on and giving us some of that great alpha and information.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, no, thank you guys. And yeah, like I said, I'm super pumped to kind of be working with you guys.
Cool. Appreciate it.
Oh yeah. Thank
Catch up
you.
soon.
Cheers.
See you,
Cheers,
everyone.
Louis.